clothmonger.com, and in this video tutorial I'll be showing how to needle sculpt the face on a bunny. You'll need a 5-inch doll needle, matching thread, and either black embroidery floss, black yarn, or you can even use black thread. I'm going to start with matching thread. It's about 1 yard long. I'm going to tie a knot at the end. You can either insert the needle directly into the armpit point, or you can enter through the back. Whichever one is easier for you, it doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up with the arms. So to start the needle sculpture, I'm going to put my needle in, and I'm going to come out armpit point on the right side. It's sometimes easy to accidentally pull the thread out, so I'm going to secure a knot by grabbing a little bit of fabric and tying another knot. Okay, so now I'm going to take my needle point, insert it back into the armpit point, and I'm going to come out the right eye. I'm going to go back into the right eye, but not the exact same hole. I'm going to grab a few strands of thread from the fabric and come out the left eye. And when I say left, I mean my left, not the bunny's left. I'm going to come out the left eye. I'm going to leave just a little bit of thread there to grab in a minute. And then I'm going to go back into the the left eye, and come out the left armpit point. I like to leave a little bit of thread over here to grab for when I actually squeeze the head. It's easy to get that thread tangled up. So now I'm going to squeeze the bunny's head like this, and then let go of that thread. You can squeeze it really tight and get a crazy looking face, or you can kind of let it go. I want to keep that squeezed. Take my needle, grab a little bit of fabric, and tie a knot. I'm going to tie a knot again. And now you could cut this thread and start another one, but I'm just going to use the same thread since I've already tied a knot here. So I'm going to go back into the armpit point, and I'm going to come out this ear. I want to come out inside the ear, so it might take a few tries. When you think you come out the ear, check on the back to make sure your needle isn't showing. My needle was showing, so I've got to try again. I finally got it. Okay. So I'm going to pull the thread, but I'm not going to pull it tight. I'm just going to tie a knot inside of the ear. So I'm going to grab a little bit of fabric inside the ear where it won't be visible. And make sure I didn't grab any in the back. And then I'm going to tie a knot. I tie a second knot. And now this knot is going to serve as an anchor point for sculpting the mouth. So I'm going to go into the ear, make sure you don't grab any fabric on the back. I'm going to come out the mouth, or point 4. I'm going to go back into the mouth. I'm going to grab a few strands of thread from the fabric and come out this ear. And check the back. Looks like I'm good. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to kind of squeeze a little bit while I pull that thread. Now you don't want to pull it too tight on this one because then the ears will kind of go into the head, but you just want to pull it enough that you get what looks like little bunny cheeks there. You want to keep that thread tight, and you can loosen it or tighten it right up to the point when you tie the knot. So you might want to keep your fingers on the thread. I'm going to grab a little bit of fabric from the inside of the ear. I'm going to let the thread go for just a minute to do that. Okay. So I'm going to squeeze the face, pull the thread tight. And then I'm going to tie a knot. You can kind of pull the ear a little bit before you make your final knot if it's too tight. And I'm going to tie a second knot to secure it. Then I'm going to insert the needle into his ear. And bury the thread tail. Now I'm going to embroider the nose and the mouth of the bunny. You're going to need black embroidery floss or pearl cotton. I'm actually going to use organic cotton thread. I used to have a supplier for organic embroidery floss, but she recently stopped making it. So now I'm just using thread until I find another supplier. So I have 3 strands of thread. You can use 2 to 3 strands of embroidery floss, or more if you like. So I have a knot at the end. I'm going to come in through the back and come out the armpit point. You can see where I messed up there a minute ago. So I'm going to come in through the back, come out that armpit point. I'm going to tie a knot again. I'm going to pass back into the body. I'm going to come out point 3, which is the base of the nose. Then I'm going to go through points 1 and 2. Then I'm going to go back into point 3. I'm going to come out the mouth, which is point 4. you ever pull your thread too tight, you can take your seam ripper and just kind of pull it back out a little bit. So now I'm going to go back into point 3, and then I'm going to come out this armpit. You can actually come out either one, it doesn't matter. It's kind of hard to get the threads to go in evenly, so I just kind of am pulling them out and then letting them go back in to kind of straighten them all together. And now I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie a second knot just to make sure it's secure. And I'm going to bury the thread tail. So now it's time to make the eyes. I like to make the eyes a little thicker, so you can either use multiple strands of embroidery floss, like maybe 6 strands. You can use pearl cotton, or I'm going to use a medium weight yarn. So I have a knot tied at the end. I'm going to come in through the back and out the armpit again. Sometimes it's hard to pull yarn through. Since it's so thick, if you use yarn, you definitely don't need to tie another knot there. So I'm going to go back through the body. I'm going to come out the left eye. Sometimes I like to use my hemostat clamps for pulling it through. Just makes it a little bit easier. And now I'm going to embroider the eye. You can use a French or a colonial knot. I actually have a video on that if I'm doing it too quickly in this video. But I like to use a colonial knot. So it's going to make a backward C. Put my needle point under the yarn. Wrap it around. And go back into the eye, but not the exact same hole. I'm going to tighten the thread for the yarn. And I'm going to come out the other eye. May end up redoing that in a minute. Just have a little bit of a loose spot of yarn that doesn't want to tighten up. I'm going to make a backward C again, take my needle point under the top of the C, wrap my thread around, and go back into the eye, but not the same hole. And then again, you can come out either armpit point, it doesn't matter. So my eyes look about even. So now I'm going to tie a knot and bury the tails of the yarn. So that's obviously a really big knot, but we're going to cover it all up with that arm in just a minute. So I'm going to bury the tails of the yarn. And for the last step, I'm going to stitch the arms down, and I'm actually going to needle sculpt them into the body to give him that really fat, dumpy look, like he ate too many marshmallows. So to do the next step that holds his arms down, you need to thread your dull needle again with matching thread. This time, don't tie a knot at the end. I'm using about 2 yards of thread. I'm going to go in through the tail area right here. And then I'm going to bring the needle out in front of the armpit area. So I've actually labeled it as the paw points on the pattern piece. So just bring it out one of the paw points. And then I'm going to grab about 1/4 inch of the fabric on the paw. And then I'm going to come out, or I'm going to go back in by going through the other paw point. Then I'm going to come across to the other side, come out one of the paw points on the body. I'm going to go through the paw, grab about 1/4 inch of fabric, and then I'm going to go through the other paw point. I'm going to come out the back, come out the tail area again, but make sure you don't go through the original threads. So now you can pull the threads as tight as you like. Just grab, you have the thread tails from where the needle went in, and then you have the thread tails from where the needle came out. So you can pull them as tight as you like, and when you pull them, you can see that it makes him look like he's grabbing his belly. So just make it as tight as you like. And tie a knot 2 or 3 times. You really have to kind of hold your finger on that knot area or it'll come loose. After you tie the knot, you can take your needle and go back into the body to bury the thread tails, or since you're going to be covering it up with a tail, it doesn't really matter if there are thread tails there or not. I just like to always bury the thread tail. I'm actually going to tie one more knot just to make sure this is not going anywhere. I'm going to take the needle in, bury that thread tail. And then I need to re-thread these to bury them. I actually find that it's easier with a long dull needle. Sometimes your thread's too short, so I just go ahead and put it into the body. And then I thread the needle. Now you can add a little more stuffing to kind of push that out some. And then we're going to cover up that area by ladder stitching this short end of the tail to the body. So I'll ladder stitch all the way around. I'll go across the top, then I'll flip it up and go across the bottom. Then you can ladder stitch the back and you'll be done. You can find me and my fluffy friends at fluffmonger.com and on social media.